Hey guys, Mustached Tom here to review Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 2. So of course, I knew this was coming. I mean, I didn't expect it all to drop at once, but hey, we're here. So of course, I should unfold the cards early. Avatar: The Last Airbender, the original show, was what we would call in the business of the review sphere master class. Lightning in a bottle, really, of a show that really took time. That word really carries a lot more weight than I think Netflix or whoever is the top diggity dog around, whoever put this and unfolded it and what mess it was in, even in Season 1. And so, that cluttered mess was actually given a Season 2 to continue. And thus time did what it did again, and proved that when you don't give something time, it's gonna be dog shit. And small elements, fragments of what was left behind of the original show, sure, will shine through. That's a given. I mean, at least when you put a little bit more care than the movie adaptation anyway. That is the potential. But the other thing, both of those elements, including Netflix's adaptation, was missing, was time. Pacing is what killed the beast. And every issue that I'm pretty sure others in the reviewing sphere have cornered, if they have been paying attention to this show in particular, can be boiled down to what I am talking about: pacing and time. You see, Avatar built up every bit of its adventure, so much so that, sure, you could even excuse that show for having what we would in the business call filler. But it has come to me that through watching this adaptation that I think we gave the filler a bit of a hard time. You know, the episode of the Avatar that everybody or most Avatar fans can agree is really bad. Remember that a long time ago? Oh, those days of crossing the canyon, right? And the two factions. I believe the episode was called The Great Divide. An episode that, again, the fandom at the time really hated. But I think that episode is a microcosm of what we are actually missing in this show. Time, pacing, and building character. And again, this show can do some of those things. In fact, it has to cluster so much information into short bursts is that we miss out on so many missed opportunities. You see, The Great Divide, even in its worst state of affairs, I would call better than this show at this rate. And I think that really comes into toe where I see The Great Divide. You see, The Great Divide to me is an episode that has actually gotten better over time, because to me, when I look at The Great Divide, I see an episode that's all about, you know, separating two families, or in this case, politics. We can swap the thing out, right? And then, what do you get? You get two echo chambers. And that's the entire episode. And to me, again, with that level of hindsight of being able to shift what The Great Divide, a divisive episode, can represent, to me that episode, again, has gotten better over time. And you know, you get a bit of wonkiness from Aang in that episode. I will grant that much still to this day, but I think that zaniness, that little oomph of spirit, is something that this entire season can never manage to even muster. And how do you do that? How do you remove that oomph that made Aang who he truly was at heart? Even Aang had his worst, you know, in the Great Divide. That to me still felt like Aang. Sure, it was a goofy moment, but it was still Aang at the end of the day. His heart, his drive to, you know, see conflict end, these elements made up Aang. And a lot of this season is dismantling the Avatar group. And I don't recall the gang fighting this early in the show, but that's because it's probably being clustered in with the whole Aang keeps a secret from Katara and Sokka about their dad later on, right? Although that could still too happen, but then it would just get the same result we're already getting here, so I'm inclined to think that they're actually just gonna drop that entire thing about what Aang does there, because, again, we're already doing it here. There's no need for it because we've clustered in elements that are further ahead, it feels like, in terms of character moments that can conceivably happen. Like, sure, at the end of this, Zuko gets his moment where he retreats back to the Fire Nation, or at least back to Azula. That does happen in the original show, and I think a lot of people who were reviewing this did forget that that actually did happen in the original show. I will grant the show this much. But that's not gonna save it from still being an overall kinda shitty season. It's just not. I mean, again, there are grains of good scenes, but just having little good scenes doesn't make a great episode, or, for an extension of that, a good show overall. It just means that that grain of salt is that grain of salt, and can even be more greatly appreciated in the animated version. I mean, just take, for example, Uncle Iroh's saying goodbye to his son. It's you know, that little speck that I'm talking about. So much better done in the animated show. The song. I mean, why would you drop the song? That was the masterclass of that entire moment, and it's not here. Why would you drop something so beautiful, so emotional, and remove it from the live-action adaptation? It makes no sense. And again, that isn't to say that there's zero heart. I'm not going to be that bad faith. I'm going to be as objective as possible. The scene that's there is emotional. It's just not quite that scene. It doesn't create that level of... I didn't feel like I was ready to cry with Iroh in that moment, which was where I was with the original Iroh moment. That scene brought me to tears the original time I saw it, because I knew what it meant to Iroh as a character. And, you know, another moment, there's another moment in this scene that was Zuko-centric, and I can't even remember the specifics other than, you know, his little moments with, not Teo, his father, the mechanic. You know, again, little speck. But out don't know, there's something about Sokka, his ability to be the comic relief, which he was in the original show, and what the writer was given this character, it feels like, I don't know what Sokka is meant to be. I mean, they're pulling at other strings. That much is clear, like how he can't bend. They're bringing that up early. Which, again, grain in the sand, because that is something that is brought up, I would say, decently early in the show. And they resolve it. With him getting training from the White Lotus guy. I don't remember his actual name. It's been too long. He's in this season, but I don't remember his name. They don't mention his name by once, I don't think. So, there was another bizarre thing I've seen reviewers talk about. They're assuming, based off of the ending of this season, that the people creating this show are going to actually push Katara and Zuko. Despite Zuko already just blasting Aang away at the end of this season. So, I'm not sure what they're pointing to. Like, they have that scene in the cell with Zuko and Katara, but that also happened in the original anime. I feel like there's a disconnect in people who are saying that Zuko and Katara are going to get together in this adaptation. I mean, I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm not a mind reader by any means, but that's even if this show gets a season 3, because I've been seeing, just from looking up this poster, that a lot of people have left. They're not watching the show. And I can't blame them. There's nothing to blame on the people leaving your show. You did that to yourselves. You shot yourselves in the foot ever since season 1. Again, making every season 8 episodes long is this show's Achilles heel. It has been since season 1, and they repeated the mistake in season 2, and now it's paying its dividends. People are leaving. The emotional connections just aren't as deep. The character work just isn't hitting the same. And that is not a fault of the actors. I think the actors are doing fantastic with what they're given. And I will even give the show this. The bending is way better than it is in the movie. I mean, still not quite the fluidness of the original work, but still, it's impressive, or a lot more impressive than the movie is. So there are now 2 big discrepancies: movie Avatar, live action series Netflix Avatar, and then way beyond that is original animated Avatar. The three works of Avatar, evoluted from worst to best, and to think that the best came first, again, alluding to that lightning in the bottle. And it is fascinating to me to think that they would end season 2 where I'm pretty sure they end it in the anime, or sorry, not anime but cartoon, same difference but still, with Aang being shot. And that was, in the original anime or cartoon or whatever you want to consider Avatar at this point, that was a turning point. That was a point in which we could see this entire shift happening. This is a big win for the bad guys. The dawn before the rise, as it were. And the thing is that season 1 was a bit gloomy. Like, there wasn't enough of that cheerful oomph that I remember from the show. Again, alluding even back to season 1. And now we're falling even deeper. Do you see the problem of why people would leave? It's 'cause you tore out the heart, or pieces of it. You really, truly did. And Netflix, or whoever is at the top, whoever is making those decisions to make it 8 episodes long, that's on that guy, or those people. Whoever the fuck made that decision, that's what ruined the show, ultimately. And the writers, well, I know that they can even fuck up too. I mean, the way they have to wiggle Azula around in this season. Some people are saying that Azula is not even Azula because she makes her fight her friends. And I could have... Maybe I have to rewatch Avatar. I thought there was a moment where she came close to doing it. Making that sort of decision or something. Or maybe I'm just misremembering moments with Azula. Azula is an interesting villain. I'm not even going to say antagonist. I'm just going to say villain in this show. And it's weird because that moment, the when she makes her fight, makes her seem like a villain. However, when she's recruiting Zuko, they portray her as if they're trying to make her an antagonist. Not a villain. Not necessarily. Even despite her villainous moment in striking the Avatar, it's that weird moment. And I can't help but wonder if it's actually the inverse of what everyone keeps saying about Zuko. If they're gonna do something different with Azula, rather. Because that's what I feel like is happening. Maybe I watched a different show from everyone who's saying Zuko's gonna not get a redemption arc in this show, or whatever. And again, if they don't get a season 3, I guess those critics would be technically correct. We'll never even get to know. He'll just be known as somebody who went back to the bad side. Which again is something he temporarily did in the show. And that's what made his redemption arc, which is several episodes long, mind you, of going to Avatar members one by one and being like, can I help you with something? And remember, that's when the big ship, that's when the shipping with Katara and Zuko even began in the cartoon. It was way later. It was all the way over there. That's when people started to see, like, oh, he's having a moment. Oh, he's helping her seek Katara's revenge. Oh, they could be a thing. Like, I'm pretty sure that's when that ship even became a thought process. Because maybe I'm just not, I wasn't internet inclined back then, but I don't recall anybody, not many people saying that Katara and Zuko were going to be a thing until that happened. I mean, obviously, ultimately, we know that Aang and Katara are the item in the original show. But I digress in saying that who knows what is going to happen, because you truncated so many great moments in season 2, or rather, because they separated by books, book 2, that book 3, there is really only one question. When does the light come? Because the light hasn't arrived. The light is the spark that is Avatar. To me, that goofiness, it's crazy, because they have the moment of the guy saying, "Where's my cabbages?" right? they have stuff like that there, and Sokka saying Water Tribe, and they know the lines from time to time. So it baffles me that other things that are in the possession of certain characters like Aang and his love for animals is never displayed outside of Appa, which is a big thing, don't get me wrong. But it's nowhere else. It's not even mentioned, I don't think, outside of Appa, I'm pretty sure. In fact, they had the whole thing where he had a fascination with the bear just being a bear. In fact, everybody did. And I gotta say, there were a lot of blind jokes at Toph's expense. I mean, she kept taking it on the chin because that's the type of character Toph is. So at least they got her personality down, I guess. But, like, the rush to get her to be a metal bender, to me, is the issue. I mean, that took a while, or at least it took a lot longer, because they had more episodes to do stuff. And I don't know, something, and maybe it's the actress, but Toph seems a little bit older portrayed here. Am I sensing that wrong? Maybe I am. I don't know. There's just something off about it. I can't quite place it, though. There is some youthful energy, like when she gets to say she's the earth-bending master. Like, there's some of it here and there, but I don't know if... It never feels to me like it reaches quite that level of, again, the original Avatar. And, yeah, like, other elements, like Katara and the whole water spirit thing, like, that was in a whole other area that they just had to remove because they just moved it to Ba Sing Se. I know from what I can recall that it was an area that was, like, in the docks. And, like, people there were, like, suffering, and they already believed in the spirit lady. And called upon her and whatnot. And, to me, it just feels like Katara just knows that that exists without ever being told. Because I don't think she's told about the water spirit before she starts doing it. Unless... There's like one moment that I just am completely blanking out on. I suppose there could have been, but I don't remember. So yeah, this episode, or season, is frustrating. Because again, there are specs. And I think that's why people might hate this more than what I'm pretty sure the creators have already been intending on it. I think it's those specs, but not having everything else. Because it is ultimately missing that heart, that drive, that passion, that thing, that special thing that made Avatar beloved. Because it wasn't just the seriousness of facing the Fire Nation Lord. It was the slow moments. It was the guy freaking out and us, the Avatar fanbase, creating a meme of the guy doing the freaky, like, and the foam coming out of his mouth. It was those moments. It was Aang being full of himself when he first arrived in Kyoshi Island. I'm pretty sure none of that, or it's so truncated in Season 1 that I don't even think that most of what I just said even occurs in Season 1. And that carries over into Season 2. People don't forget. Fans don't forget. They hold on to that shit. They cherish that material because it helps build the characters. Even if it's a small thing. This show forgets the small stuff. The stuff that makes it work. Zuko being the blue spirit or whatever, that happens so that he can save the Avatar and then be conflicted. Here, it's almost like it gets flipped in that, like, Zuko gets trapped while being the blue mask because we're truncating that entire bit so that Aang can save him, and then flip. Like, you've constricted the blue spirit's journey, and it's just like, oh, okay, I guess that's done. What was great about that was a part of the reveal, especially for Aang. Remember, Aang was the one that discovered that Zuko was the blue spirit at a point in the original show. Gone. Doesn't get to happen in season 2. We just get to learn that Zuko needs to be saved, and that's just that. And then we get the flip. So, like, half of the beats that are, probably even more than half of the beats that are in the original show just aren't even present. They're not allowed to be. And that slashes the character work in half for every single character. No character is free from this. All of them have to suffer because the show is truncating itself to be 8 episodes to tell, in book 2, I don't even remember how many episodes are per book, but it's far more than 8. It's way more than 8, guys. I don't know if you remember that shows used to be longer than 8 episodes a season. I don't know if networks remember that. I truly don't. Because there's this uncanny thing that keeps happening, and there seems to be a guilt on Netflix's behalf. I don't know, but because it's not the only show that's appeared on Netflix that has been mysteriously weekended amount of episodes short. But here's the thing, right? A lot of people have been talking about bad season finales, which I don't agree with most of them because they're because some reviewers are stupid or liars. The Boys, Stranger Things. These are 2 finales that I think are a lot stronger than what people are saying, quite frankly. But I would be dismissed if I were to say I think both of those shows could have used from an improvement from allowing to be longer, not short. Well, maybe not The Boys. Maybe not The Boys. I think The Boys ended where it should have, to be quite honest. In terms of Stranger Things, I think that one ended a bit too soon. But that's comparative work. But they're different shows with different writings and different, setups and payoffs. So that's just me reworking what I can remember right now. But Avatar is substantially longer than this. And there's no reason to cut it this. Like, every book, if they were truly doing this 8-episode nonsense, for whatever fucking reason, they needed to end season 1 way before they ever, get to wherever they ended in season 1. Like, they needed to cut that moment in half. In terms of finding a framework of being like, okay, if season 1 is truly going to be 8 episodes long, we need to end it here sooner. And then start season 2 sooner, not jumping to book 2, if that makes sense. This would keep the tops of the top happy, I think, of getting there are 8 episodes, or for whatever fucking reason they think 8 episodes is like this magical number. But quite frankly, for the people who are disappointed in The Boys and Stranger Things, I would point to that. Don't look at the writers. Stop looking there. Look at what's being truncated to them. 8 episodes. Now, to me, 8 episodes does not seem like a lot of time, especially for a show like Avatar. And again, I would personally include Stranger Things and not The Boys. But I digress in saying, still, there needs to be some sort of workaround or some sort of event that needs to happen in the world above of the big corporations or whatever the fuck. Whoever is at the tippity top, they gotta realize if they wanna stop losing shit like Avatar, they need to learn where to call it quits, which is interesting, because One Piece continued to do business, but that's because it was allowed, when it was being made, to start from business. That's what fascinates me, is that One Piece is under the same restraints, which is why I'm also blaming the writers here in this scenario. One Piece is a fascinating phenomenon because they were allowed adaptation to adaptation, so I'm talking closer works here. Pure adaptation to adaptation, One Piece was allowed to be goofy. It was allowed to be nonsensical. And it was allowed, get this, to have heart. And from there, everything else followed. And the truncation feels a lot less egregious for something like One Piece than it does Avatar: The Last Airbender because of those things. Because the heart of the characters still get to breathe in that show. Like, God, Chopper blows every scene in this show out of the water from One Piece. Just to compare season to season, Chopper is unfair. Because it blows everything out of the water, quite frankly. Like, jeez, the level of heart that those episode had. But that's because it had that room to breathe. I mean, seriously, like, so much of that was a flashback. Almost 90% of that episode was a flashback, and the reason I bring that up is to point to Zuko again. Zuko, one of the episodes is like a partial Zuko flashback, and it's sort of correlating in his moments in a particular episode. It's in the latter half. And, you know, that is done in the show early on. And you gotta respect what they were able to do. The parallel stories contained within one episode, right? Talking about using your time wisely at the time. Able to tell two compelling stories back to back within one episode of the original show. That just shows the expert of the writing of the past, though. That writing doesn't exist anymore. I mean, now we're just getting spark notes of those things. And they seem a lot more sparse than ever before from moment to moment. And when stuff like that happens, it disconnects Zuko from Avatar, and considering the finale, that just comes across as extremely baffling. Regardless, let's just assume the people who are saying Zuko is going to be a villain are right. Let's assume that. Let's assume that faith of those people. Even if that were the case, the writing would still be shit anyway. Because now, what you have is a villain and a protagonist that barely have anything that's pushing and pulling them together like the original show was. Because you already missed that, the extensive bit of work that original those double flashback episodes did for the two back then. And so I must say, in terms of a score, I think it's best to say a 4 out of 10 because of the spark notes. I almost want to give it a 5. It almost gets to a meh because of those spark notes, I would argue. But I don't think it can get past that, quite frankly. I don't know if it deserves even a 6 out of 10. It doesn't have enough good in it for me. The bad just overwhelms the good. Because the good is so sparse. And that's my review of Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender Season 2. And if you ended up enjoying this review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition about small YouTubers, second to my PayPal, you can help support me and my channel directly, and third to my Discord server. You can join, collab, shell, do all that cool stuff for free. And until next time, bye-bye.